All these things are signs of the will and eagerness of the individual to offer himself and herself in the country's service. It is ready and waiting to be employed. Have you joined the local defense volunteers? In this organization, you will find increasingly important work to do. You can carry on with your civil employment while discharging military duties. You can renew your acquaintance with firearms with all the self-confidence which the rifle gives you. Or if you're new to the rifle, you can quickly learn on the ranges how to handle and fire it.
That you're taking your first pressure and you're going to apply the second pressure by a gentle movement from the first finger.
The LDVs at Bisley have been giving a good account of themselves. Then again, this organization contains a motorcycle contingent whose job will be very responsible if there is any breakdown in telephone communications. Do we put our cars out of action when leaving them? And have we digested the contents of the latest government pamphlet? Only if we can answer these questions with a yes, can we be considered citizens worthy of our country in its crisis.
But I hate to think what would happen if the Germans ever got over. We'd have been slaughtered.
Evacuated from London and the south of England, hundreds of dogs have adopted new owners for the duration. It's rather bad luck on the original owners, but that can't be helped. Many of the dogs will be given war work to do. They'll be taught by their new masters to help the LDV. Learning to handle a rifle is apparently part of their training. They should be good companions on patrol.
Well, they'd come up with Tommy guns, etc., and cannons and artillery, if they could get over.
So it was that during July 1940, Goering's Luftwaffe was given the task of destroying the RAF before Hitler could unleash his invasion of Britain, or Operation Sea Lion. The Battle of Britain had begun. The Luftwaffe tried to lure British fighters out over the Channel by attacking British shipping, docks and even balloons.
Not so easy as it looks. Those balloons are often at different heights, and they don't just go pop at the first bullet. Sometimes the Nazi pilot succeeds and a balloon falls flaming from the sky. But just as often, the Nazi pilot takes the count. Anti-aircraft guns force him up higher and higher, and then our fighters take a hand. In this and other battles along the English Channel, the Nazis have lost on one day 60 planes, on the next 62. There's one of them, a dive bomber, that will dive no more. British losses, though distressing, are much less. 16 on the day 60 Nazis were brought down. Dover Harbour is still there, and British ships still ply amid seas where Britannia still rules supreme.
We saw lots of dogfights, yes. Saw lots of planes coming down.
I know it wasn't very nice for the grown-ups, but for a young lad of 12 to 14 years of age, it was very exciting.
In August 1940, Hitler and his chief of the Luftwaffe, Hermann Goering, switched their attacks to RAF airfields. Goering had promised Hitler that he would decimate the RAF in a matter of weeks.
Fritz comes over looking very perky, but probably feeling quite the reverse, and heads inland. Then anti-aircraft batteries open up on him. And word is sent to those jaunty Hurricane fighters who climb to meet him. The battle is fought above the clouds, but this is how it ends. One more of the 169. Another. And another. 169 in one day. The equivalent of 12 or 14 squadrons. How long can the Nazi Air Force stand such losses, which on August the 15th were in the ratio of 5 to 1? Yet you can see their problem. They must strike now before Britain's output of aircraft becomes overwhelming. We can view all this wreckage, in the Prime Minister's phrase, not without relish. The Boche got just what was coming to him, and on his own day.
But inland, some German bombers did get through.
Not all of us have yet been through an air raid, and the stories of those who have are still interesting. Here's an account of how one ordinary citizen acted in the emergency and his conclusions.
Last night, about 12:30, we had an air raid warning.
we got down to our shelter, and our neighbour and his wife came down with us. After what seemed to be a fairly short period, we thought we had an all-clear warning. We then heard people about, so he goes into the kitchen to make the usual cup of tea. After some time, decided we better get to bed. We go out into the garden, my friend and I, and looking about, I heard an airplane. We thought it was ours, and suddenly we saw a flash, and heard a whining, whistling noise like something falling. My friend turns to run to the air raid shelter, and he got sort of bumped into it. I turned to go into the house to see the wife and children, get them, and door opened, down comes the scullery ceiling. I grabbed the little girl, the wife and baby, and went into the passage and laid down. After a few minutes, thought seemed a bit quieter, we gets back into the air raid shelter, where we stayed until sometime later the official all-clear signal was given. I must say, I think anyone that has an Anderson shelter should see it's cleared out and run to it when they get the warning.
And we may add, stay in it until the all-clear signal goes for certain. The lucky people these days are those who possess Anderson steel shelters. Make use of them and don't leave them until you really know it's all clear.
One night a bomb did fall very close to us. It was only 100 yards away, and that was a direct hit on a house of people we knew, and their Anderson shelter, they were found at the end, shot up to the end of the garden. That was the end of them.
Meanwhile, Hitler's Air Force, continuing its raids on Britain, has apparently decided that the city of London is a military objective. High explosive and incendiary bombs were dropped here one fine night, and many Londoners saw the glow from the fires that were started. These were rapidly extinguished, and as you can see, the damage to property was not very extensive. But who would have thought that poor old Milton was a military objective?
On September the 7th, 1940, Hitler changed his tactics and switched his bombers from RAF stations to a blitz of London.
The Battle of London, which began with strong forces of Nazi bombers attacking the capital at night, led to a big fire on the waterside early in the onslaught. Londoners watching the blaze knew that Hitler and Goering now challenged them.
The whole sky was red, looking across towards the docks.
A big night attack like this was bound to do some industrial damage, but the majority of the German bombs, apparently unloaded at random, struck at civilians and private property. Many houses were demolished by these Nazi Knights of the Air, as their leader is pleased to call them, and street scenes like this illustrate the tragic story.
"300 German bombers attacked the London docks. On the first day, more than 400 people were killed and 1,600 badly injured.
The raiders claim to have used bombs of the heaviest caliber, and here's evidence that seems to confirm that statement. Their ridiculous claim to have damaged only military objectives is utterly contradicted by the facts. The attacks are evidently in the nature of terror raids, but the people of London are not to be intimidated by Nazi frightfulness.